This is my final paper presentation for Anthropology F242. Climate change is a major problem. There will be solutions, and I would like to discuss the possible introduction of a clean, reliable power source into Alaska and the ramifications of that introduction on the people and culture of the native population. Cortez came to the New World in the 1500s, and he found a culture he didn't understand, people he thought were savages. He fought with them over resources. He spread diseases, and eventually he left in 1547. In the late 1700s, Russian explorers came to Alaska to exploit the fur trade. They also thought the people were savages. They did everything they could to convert the people to their religion. They spread disease, and they stole their resources. Eventually left about 1850. In 1896, gold was discovered in the Yukon, and once again, foreign invaders came in to take that resource. About 100,000 people left to go to the gold fields, and only about 30,000 made it. When the gold ran out, they went home. In 1968, oil was discovered at Prudhoe Bay, and once again, resources. They went after it, and they about 70,000 workers came in and built this vast pipeline in order to bring the oil from Prudhoe Bay down to Valdez. When the oil ran out, most of the people came home. Unfortunately, due to the fact that oil and the burning oil causes problems, the problems have stayed. How did oil get in the environment in the first place? Well, millions of years ago, there was plankton and various animal life in the oceans. They had their cycles of life and death, and as they died, they went to the sea floor, collected there, and they were covered up by mud, and the pressure caused the material to turn into oil. We now pump all that oil out of the ground and burn it as fuel. When the animals died, they carried all their carbon, and it was contained inside the earth. A lot of carbon. When we pump it out, we burn it, and it all goes up in our atmosphere. The carbon that's put into the atmosphere causes a problem called the greenhouse effect. If you add too much carbon, then very little heat can exit, and it stays inside here, and it starts to heat up the world, and various problems occur. A big problem that has been noted lately is the melting of the permafrost. Contained in the permafrost, there is no oil, but there's still a lot of plant material that didn't turn into oil. It turned into a gas called methane, which is another form of carbon. And the unfortunate thing is that this methane is about 20 times as bad as the CO2. It will add greatly to the problems of global climate change. We've become very dependent upon oil. Our military has been set up to protect it and acquire it. Not only us, but most countries in the world have done this. If the United States military was a country, it would be the 34th largest one. In Kuwait, we fought a battle to protect the oil fields, and we used an environmental weapon when the oil wells were set on fire. Oil has all sorts of problems. One of the most notable ones, oil has all sorts of problems. We're all aware of oil spills, the pollution that's caused by particulate matter. But in Alaska, it also is a major problem because it's melting the ice, which is used for habitat for a lot of the animals, and it interferes with the hunting. Also, erosion. The permafrost is being melted, and it's being washed away, so houses have to be relocated, and causes major problems. Global warming is real. There are all alternatives, though. Solar power would be good for Alaska, but it doesn't have much light during the winter. And in the summer, it's great, except that it may get cloudy. It's not very reliable as far as it's intermittent. Geothermal, that's a good solution, but it's not all located in all the places it's needed. Wind power is good, except once again it's intermittent and the wind doesn't always blow. Water would be good, but we'd have to dam up the rivers, which would interfere with the salmon runs and things like that. Tidal power would be good inside the water, but the seas freeze. Biomass would be good, except the growing season isn't big enough to sustain a large amount of material. One solution that's currently used is nuclear power. And it supplies about 20% of the United States electrical power right now. It's safe. It's one of the safest ones. And it is been demonstrated. So this is how the current way it works. They build a pellet of uranium fuel, and they put it inside of a tube, and then they put it inside of a bundle, and then all the bundles are put together, and it's put into a reactor, and the reactor heats up, makes water. Water turns to steam, turns to generator. This is great, except for one little fact. The solid fuel on the inside of the tubes, it has a tendency to swell, create gases, and it also messes up the material. This material is not used up efficiently. It only uses about 5% of the material of the fuel, and the rest of it has to be thrown away. Also, there's a lot of radioactive material that can last for a long time, up to 100,000 years. And it's a problem to get rid of all this sort of stuff. The Alaskans are well aware of the problems with radioactivity because of a thing called Project Chariot. It was decided that they would like to be able to make a deepwater harbor near Point Hope, and they were going to explode 5 nuclear weapons to blow out the material here. The local native population decided that wasn't a good idea, and they protested, and the project never occurred. But there was experiments done, and radioactive material was brought in, and it did cause a problem for the natives, and eventually it was discovered that the cancer rate had gone up quite a bit. There is a solution, though. It's called the molten salt reactor. It works just the way the other one does, except it doesn't use solid material. It uses a molten material. It uses thorium instead of uranium, and its byproducts are much more friendly. They only last about 300 years, and the amount of material that's produced is about 1,000 times less. One of the nice things is you can build these things in factories. They're a lot smaller, and they don't require a containment vessel. So you can build them to modular, make high-quality materials that are a lot safer. They're quality controlled. And then you can just barge them to where most of the people are in Alaska, which is near the coast. The benefit is that the heat that's produced can be used to heat buildings, and the electricity that is produced can be used to run the lights that could grow farms on the inside of these buildings. Another nice thing, which the current technology can't do, is you can use the heat to desalinate water. Water is a big problem for not only Alaska but the rest of the world, and this technology is great for doing that, getting fresh water. The question is, what's going to happen though? How is it going to affect the people? Well, there has to be a choice made. Once you have all these materials, are you actually want to go out and harvest the materials that you have been doing traditionally, hunting and fishing, or are you just going to sit back and create all these cities and stay in the city? Also, there are traditional beliefs that have interconnections with nature. Are those beliefs going to be held, or are we just going to go to all the Eurocentric beliefs that have been tried to been forced upon the people? Sharing has been a big point that's been made through all the readings I've done through, and when you don't have enough, it's beneficial to share with other people. When you have all the things that nuclear power can provide, all the food, all the water, all the heat, it has a tendency to make you maybe a little self-centered. Are we going to have whale hunting or whale watching? Ecotourism is a possible solution to making some money and still maintaining the environment for traditional hunting and fishing. Or are we going to allow all the people to come in that might want to come in, because now Alaska will be a much nicer place to live, or a lot easier place to live? Or are we going to let all these houses be built and use up the space? It would be nice to think that we can solve these problems and maintain the vast beauty of Alaska. I hope that's the case.